In this week's drive, we see who's really in control on race day.
Down into turn one could be enough. Oh my goodness.
Barrel roll at 200 miles an hour. See the return of a famous name to the mean streets. And witness another record for Everts. All this and more in this week's Drive. Racing at over 300 kilometers an hour requires superb control, not just from the drivers out on the track, but also from officials. On race days, the organization of the circuit and its hundreds of officials and competitors is handled from race control. Let's see what happens here at the Nürburgring.
The cameras swivel, and it's also possible to zoom in to identify an object on the track, to see whether someone has to go onto the track or whether it's just a piece of plastic which will blow away by itself. The marshals are also managed from here, for example, when they should give flag signals and so on.
It's reassuring for drivers to know that their race is being guided from on high, from the lofty control room, which in many ways is much like the operations center of a space rocket launch. If there's a major crash, officials can instantly warn marshals to display yellow, double yellow, or even race-stopping red flags at specific parts of the track. The race director is also able to watch events from various angles and to repeat incidents in slow motion if necessary.
We have the possibility of seeing all the details of the racetrack with our cameras. We can zoom in and can watch the pictures several times if there's any dispute. The technology in race control is amazing.
As is so often the case, technology developed for very specific uses finds its way into everyday applications. Surveillance cameras are becoming common in traffic control centers around the world, making the roads safer for all of us. In fact, Nürburgring is in many ways one of the most advanced tracks in the world. Although the original track, dubbed the Green Hell by drivers, was built in 1927, this all-new track staged its first Formula One race in 1984. The old track, a 27-kilometer monster with over 170 corners and almost impossible to memorize, was used for racing until elite drivers decided that it was simply too dangerous for modern racing cars. The new track's director realized that a circuit needs to have a broader appeal than just motor racing.
The starting point was actually a paper that we presented to Bernie Ecclestone in 1995 called Nürburgring 2000+. We developed a vision showing the stages in which improvements could be carried out here, pit lane buildings, a theme area, and the last stage was an arena to make the whole experience more exciting for spectators, to make overtaking maneuvers possible, and to be able to follow a racing car live for as long as possible. That was the plan.
The track has been remodeled at a cost of €7 million and is now about 600 meters longer. Around the world, Hermann Tilke is the leading name in racetrack design. The 46-year-old engineer's projects have included a facelift for Silverstone and modifications for Estoril in Portugal and Fuji in Japan.
It was incredibly important, even during the planning phase, to collect opinions and information and to ask detailed questions. And of course to get feedback when the track is finished. At that point, you can't change much, but it's still wonderful to be told that this bit is brilliant or that stretch could be a little different, or would even be better if such and such was done. Okay, that helps us the next time.
He has close contacts with Grand Prix drivers, officials and organisers and a wealth of his own experience. He's qualified for the European Touring Car Championship and competes in long-distance events at the Nürburgring.
The most demanding part by far on this new piece of the Nürburgring is this extended double left-hand corner, which will almost certainly be taken in fourth or fifth gear. Extremely high centrifugal forces occur here, and it's certainly very difficult to find the right balance. And then, at the end of this double left-hander, there's a very tight right-hand corner onto the track, which has been used by the Formula One drivers for years.
Safety is always the first priority for Tilke. His tracks offer the greatest degree of safety, as well as speed and excitement.
It's a huge piece of land that we have used there. Unlike the other sections, we have used tarmac runoff zones here, so even if it rains, we hope that there will be enough runoff and friction resistance if anything does happen. On the other hand, the cars have to brake very sharply here, so even if something does happen, it shouldn't be too bad. They probably won't even reach the tire stacks.
Reducing the danger to avoid crashes, but without harming the excitement and the spectacle. Now, Dr. Kafetz can look at the kind of improvement which couldn't have been made to the original Nürburgring. A change which makes the racing safer, more interesting to spectators who pay good money to be entertained, offers drivers an extra chance to overtake, and adds interest for millions of television viewers too. The German Grand Prix is coming up. Let's see how the world's top 20 drivers like the Nürburgring's latest incarnation. Chief among them will be the German Schumacher brothers, Michael and Ralf, arch rivals out on the track. NASCAR champion Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya tried each other's cars at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Jeff was introduced to the world of Formula One high-tech via the steering wheel, very different to his own. This was the first time that Gordon had been behind the wheel of a Formula One car, or Montoya a NASCAR. In an event named Trading Paint, Gordon, a four-time NASCAR champion, and Montoya, who recently won the Monaco Grand Prix, tried to beat each other's times around the 2.6-mile circuit. The cramped single-seater Formula One car weighs about 600 kilograms, and its BMW engine delivers around 900 brake horsepower, while the big Chevrolet saloon car weighs about 1,630 kilograms, or 2.5 times as much, and delivers about 750 brake horsepower. Gordon will attempt to win his fourth Brickyard 400 on August the 3rd at the Speedway. He has competed in 12 events on the Speedway Oval, 9 NASCAR Winston Cup races, and 3 IROC events. Going too slowly lost the downforce from the car's front wing, and as a result, it understeered gently onto the grass. Afterwards, he admitted that he'd never seen Formula One cars live, but when he sees them on TV, he'll have a greater appreciation of what their drivers are doing.
Okay, what'd you think?
Oh my God. And once I figured that baby out, I mean, I just started letting it as a brrr, and it just, boom. Very cool, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. I somehow I just don't think I got the same ride that you did, or you got the same ride that I did. So.
Believe me, I had a lot of fun. I am having a lot of fun.
Montoya complained that there was not enough braking power in the stock car. You need a parachute, he said. Unofficially, he got within 1 second of Gordon's time. Montoya won the 2000 Indianapolis 500 and will try to become the first driver to win on both the 2.5-mile oval and the road course when he races in the US Grand Prix in September. It was an overcast day as the stock cars took the green flag for the start of the NASCAR Pocono 500 at the Tri-Oval track in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Very early, spectators' attention was grabbed when, on the 8th lap, Ken Schrader hit the outside wall hard. His car rolled over but landed right side up, and as it drifted back across the track, spewing fuel, it caught fire. Rolls are unusual in NASCAR, as are car fires. Yet remarkably, it was a frighteningly similar situation for Dale Jarrett, whose car caught fire on lap 55. The veteran stock car driver got out of his car in a hurry, but debris fences offered no refuge to the driver. No wonder. The in-car camera showed flames racing through the car. Scratch one expensive camera and one very expensive race car. With 8 laps to go, on lap 193, the right front tyre on Kurt Busch's car went flat, which sent debris onto the track, bringing out the caution flag. After a restart on lap 197, the caution flag came out again 1 lap later, just 2 laps from the end, when Terry Labonte nudged Jeff Green, who spun off into the inside wall. The impact was huge, and the car bounced back onto the track. The race would end under caution as defending NASCAR champ Tony Stewart recorded his first win of the season and the 16th of his career. Stewart was dominant for the 3rd race in a row, but this time his efforts and the fast work of his crew carried him to victory circle. He had an engine problem at Lowe's Motor Speedway, then lost at Dover when NASCAR imposed a 1-lap penalty for stopping outside of his pit. Jeff Gordon finished 13th.
Lane here. You ready? Here we go.
A baking hot Euro Speedway in Lausitz saw the latest round of the DTM Championship. With the air temperatures peaking at 34 degrees Celsius, the drivers had to battle against the heat in their cabins as well as each other in the 4th round of the Touring Car Series. Bernd Schneider kept his cool. A flying start saw him hold onto the lead into the first corner as the rest jostled for position. Britain's Peter Dumbreck outdragged Matthias Ekstrom to take second. Schneider built a clear lead, and the 3-time DTM champion was able to rejoin in the lead after his pit stop. Swiss Alain Menu suffered 2 spins, the first his own fault, the second caused by Marcel Fassler in the pits. He finished 6th. Laurent Aiello also struggled. His team were forced to give his new-look red Audi a push start into the pit lane, and the 2002 DTM champion eventually finished 8th. Dumbreck was the only man who seemed remotely capable of keeping up with Schneider, but even so, he was barely given a chance by Schneider's dominant performance. With 35 laps completed, the German took a victory to delight the Lausitz crowd, 6.8 seconds ahead of Dumbreck in second. Swede Ekstrom held off the challenge of Timo Scheider to secure 3rd place, with Jean Alesi 5th. Bernd Schneider now leads the championship. With 29 points, he leads Dutchman Christian Albers, who came 7th by 3. The next race is at Germany's Norrisring. John McGuinness had his Honda delivered only 4 days before the Isle of Man lightweight TT, but the Englishman set the pace in the 4-lap 400cc race. Irishman Richard Britton and the other competitors had to wait an hour for the fog to lift on the mountain section of the 60-kilometre-long course before the race could even start. Like many other road races, Britton races several classes of bikes from 250 Grand Prix to Formula One machines. Despite having had just 4 days to set up his bike and just 3 laps of practice, McGuinness was able to steadily open up a gap on the field. He took his Honda to the finish line with a 26.32 second advantage over Britton, who settled for 2nd place, also on a Honda. Another Irish rider, Ryan Farquhar, rode his Kawasaki to 3rd spot, 42 seconds behind the winner. The win was a late reward for McGuinness after he'd finished 3rd in the TT Formula One event 2 days earlier. Sadly, the rider who finished 9th, Peter Jarman from Switzerland, was to be killed the next day while riding his historic Bultaco in the Lap of Honor event, which wasn't even a race. Later in the day, 28 riders lined up for the ultra-lightweight TT for 125s, including Manxman Chris Palmer, who 12 years ago swore he'd never race in the TT again. Robert Dunlop, gearing up for his 6th TT win, was initially disqualified and later reinstated to 4th place. Ian Loeffler, another Irishman who races in several different classes, was to finish 3rd behind Michael Wilcox. Isle of Man veteran Palmer fought back from 4th place to finally win a race, finishing nearly 40 seconds ahead of Wilcox with laps of over 107 miles an hour on the narrow streets and roads. The top 6 riders were all on Hondas. Scotsman Jim Moody was one of several riders upholding British pride, riding a Triumph TT600 in the Junior TT. However, he was to finish 9th, more than 80 seconds off the winner after 3 laps of the mountain course. Adrian Archibald, fresh from his Formula One TT win but riding under the pall of the death of his teammate David Jeffries, would run in 3rd. The Suzuki rider had done many laps in races and practice and knew his way round perfectly. John McGuinness demonstrates total commitment on another Triumph. Ryan Farquhar passes fellow Kawasaki rider Ian Duffus on his way to 4th place. Archibald passes Moody's Triumph, moving up to 3rd. But it was New Zealander Bruce Anstey on another Triumph TT600 who was picking off the riders ahead of him. Here he hunts down Jason Griffiths, McGuinness and Farquhar. Ian Loeffler was back for the Junior TT on a Honda. He would finish 2nd. Farquhar was looking all set to fulfill his dream, that of winning a TT on the Isle of Man, but Anstey put in 2 fast laps to seal the win. In 1999, New Zealander Bruce came in 7th in the lightweight 250. In 2000, he was 2nd behind the master, Joey Dunlop, and this year, he went to the top of the podium.
I knew Sean was behind me. I thought I need to pull away from Sean, get some 2 good first laps and get away from him. And I knew I had about 10-second, 12-second lead, so I just sat behind Ryan for a while, sort of battled with him for a while, so I just basically kept on behind him.
Triumph is the world's oldest manufacturer, 101 years old this year, and this was their first TT win for 28 years. The senior TT was delayed by bad weather and then reduced to 4 laps before Adrian Archibald led the field away. He had a point to prove. This event was his late teammate's favourite event. John McGuinness was back aboard a Ducati and he took the lead on the first lap as he shot down Bray Hill and over the infamous Agos Leap. Archibald was still in front on the road as he went through Ballacrane and picked up the pace in response. Ian Loeffler sets off on his Honda and Ian Duffus rolls up to the line. McGuinness lost time on the scheduled pit stop at the end of the 2nd lap because the Ducati takes time to restart. Jason Griffiths shows the spirit of TT racing through the curbs and houses of Kirkmichael at 140 miles an hour. But while the sun shone at the start in Ramsey, the mist was coming down on the mountain, but Archibald wasn't about to slow down as he flew across the highest point of the course. Clearing the mountain on the last lap, he had moved 20 seconds ahead. Jason Griffiths raced to 4th, putting Yamaha in behind the Suzuki, Ducati and Honda and averaging over 122 miles an hour. But courtesy of a lap in excess of 126 miles an hour, 3 times TT winner McGuinness extended his advantage over 3rd-placed finisher Ian Loeffler, but couldn't catch Archibald, who dedicated his win to the memory of Jeffries, who had won 9 times in Formula One, production, senior and junior classes in 1999, 2000 and 2002. Adrian received the magnificent senior TT trophy and also the Joey Dunlop trophy for winning both the Formula One TT and the senior. Michael Pichon was aiming for his 4th consecutive win of the year and his 13th win in a row, following on from last season, at the 4th round of the World Motocross Grand Prix season in Montevarchi in Italy. However, it was last year's 500cc world champion Stefan Everts of Belgium who took the early lead on his Yamaha 450. With compatriot Joel Schmetz on his KTM, Italy's Claudio Federici on a Yamaha, Pichon Suzuki and Kenneth Gunderson of Norway on a Kawasaki, all in the chasing pack. Everts, whose 2002 season included a record 6th world title and 51 Grand Prix wins, kept a cool head, but Pichon was hampered by Federici, who fell off in front of him. The top riders were soon back in the chase, but Everts, who had earlier won the 125cc race, held on to take his 2nd victory of the day. Joel Schmetz of Belgium has been runner-up to Pichon in all 3 of the races so far this season, and he again finished 2nd. Federici came in 3rd, with Pichon 4th. Gunderson crashed on the last lap and finished 9th, his worst result of the year. Everts ended up 5 seconds ahead of Schmetz, with Pichon unlucky not to go 3rd.
My 450 race has been great. I pushed really hard in the beginning. I knew the lines on the track from the 250 race, so that was a big advantage, and I could immediately go very fast and know where to go.
Everts broke another record in his incredible career by winning in 2 different classes on the same day, also winning the 125cc class. Pichon remains at the top of the title on 93 points, with Schmetz on 86. Everts is 3rd on 75, with Gunderson on 51. The fourth leg of the Outdoor Trials World Championship was at the Twin Ring. Dougie Lamkin took a slender 7-point lead over Takahisa Fujinami to Japan. In often torrential rain, which made the terrain very slippery throughout the weekend, Fujinami delighted the home crowd with fine performances despite the tough conditions. On Saturday, the man nicknamed Fujigas completed the 2 laps with a total of 33 penalties, and that was good enough for his 3rd victory of the season. And despite looking a touch nervous on Sunday, 38 penalties gave him 2nd place. And in the overall standings, a points total of 131. England's Graham Jarvis has also found his form this season. 52 penalty points on Saturday was enough for 2nd, although Jarvis saved his best for Sunday. With 19 penalties on lap 1 and 18 on lap 2, he went 2nd to Fujinama, and his championship challenge is gaining momentum. With 117 title points, he shares 3rd with Spain's Marc Frischer. Lamkin, meanwhile, had, by his standards, a disappointing weekend. 55 penalties gave him 3rd place on Saturday. A broken chain was partly to blame. On Sunday, he took 3rd once again, behind Jarvis and Fujinama. Lamkin and Fujinama now sit alongside one another in the overall standings with 131 points. The Japanese, however, is the official leader because he has more victories so far this season. And that, of course, represents quite a coup in the world of trials riding, Lamkin having been toppled from top spot for the first time ever in 7 years. The World Series returns to Europe with the Andorra Grand Prix. Finally, we go to Athens, capital of Greece and spiritual home to the Olympic Games. But Athens is also home to the next Olympiad, scheduled for about 14 months. And is it just me, or does there seem to be altogether too little activity around some of these construction sites? After a series of delays, many of the 32 Olympic venues are still far from complete. And while officials are confident that the venues will be ready in time, there is another matter which will need to be addressed urgently: the notorious Athens traffic. Sydney, Australia hosted the last Games, and while that city isn't nearly so congested, special buses, trains and official Olympic vehicle lanes were put in place.
No, each city has its own Olympic Games. Sydney was very successful, but Athens Games will also be unique, and we feel, and that's widespread now among more people in the international community, that the Athens Games, with its history and tradition in modern facilities, will be unique and great games.
Athens traffic is notorious, with thousands of cars clogging up the streets. To try and combat this, the city's authorities are undertaking a huge investment in both public transport and road building. In addition, there are various suggestions to restrict traffic under consideration, including restricting access to vehicles with even and odd license plates on alternating days. The biggest project is the national road that connects the airport to the city and will be a vital artery throughout the Games. We'll know how successful they've been in just over a year. So, whatever's in your path, whatever the wobbles, and even if there's mist everywhere, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.